The Power of Scars: Reclaiming Authenticity in a World of Masks. Have you ever had that moment when you're sitting in a meeting, nodding along, smiling at all the right times, while inside you're falling apart? That split second where you catch yourself thinking, if they only knew what I was really going through. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Tyra Gardner, a visionary whose work has transformed countless lives through her revolutionary approach to empowering Black professionals. She's not just a thought leader, she's a healer who has created spaces where authenticity isn't just welcomed, but celebrated as the foundation of true power. Through her guidance, entire communities have rediscovered parts of themselves they had buried under years of professional masks and societal expectations. Her insights reveal a profound truth. We're living in a world of masks, especially in professional spaces, and the weight of wearing them is crushing us. Tyra's revolutionary approach to healing and empowerment isn't just changing individual lives, it's reshaping entire communities and workplaces. Her message is clear, and it strikes at the heart of our collective struggle. Our scars aren't something to hide, they're the very source of our strength. Think about it. We've all been taught the same lesson: never let them see you sweat. Keep your personal life at home. Be professional at all costs. But at what cost are we maintaining these facades? For many of us, the price is our authentic connection to ourselves and to others. For Black professionals, this cost is exponentially higher. The pressure to be twice as good, to never show weakness, to compartmentalize pain and trauma, it's not just exhausting, it's soul crushing. I remember a statistic that stopped me in my tracks. 58% of Black employees feel they need to change aspects of their behavior and appearance just to fit in at work. 58%. That's not just a number. That's more than half of an entire community living divided lives. Imagine the mental and emotional energy required to maintain that division day after day, year after year. But what if there's another way? What if our healing, our growth, our very success depends not on hiding our scars, but on honoring them? This is the first profound truth Tyra Gardner shares. Healing, growth, and success are not linear journeys. They ebb and flow. They include setbacks that aren't failures, but essential parts of the path. When we expect our healing to follow a straight line upward, we set ourselves up for disappointment and shame when inevitably we face challenges. The Pink Parachute Diaries podcast emerged precisely from this understanding. Created to address the unique pressures Black professionals face, this platform became a sanctuary where people could finally exhale and say, "This is who I really am." The name itself speaks volumes. A powerful reclaiming of narrative in a world where talented Black women are often, handed pink slips while underperforming counterparts receive golden parachutes. Listeners reported something striking. They had been living double lives, one at work, another in private, and the exhaustion of this division was breaking them. They felt isolated, burned out, and constantly on guard. One listener described it as wearing armor that protected me from others, but was slowly crushing me from the inside. But something remarkable happened when the podcast encouraged guests and listeners to share their authentic stories of vulnerability and resilience. A shift occurred. Vulnerability, long considered a weakness to be hidden, was reframed as a source of immense strength. One listener wrote, "For the first time in my career, I didn't feel alone in my struggles. Hearing others share their stories gave me permission to acknowledge my own journey, the good, the bad, and everything in between. I realized that the parts of myself I've been hiding weren't flaws. They were the very things that made me resilient." The impact rippled outward. As listeners felt seen and empowered, industries began shifting their conversations around authenticity. A thriving, supportive community formed where people could be their whole selves without fear of judgment. What began as a podcast transformed into a movement, a collective reclaiming of narrative and power. This brings us to Tyra's second powerful insight. Reclaiming your power begins with honoring your whole self, mind, body, and spirit. Authenticity and vulnerability aren't weaknesses to hide, they're strengths to embrace. Consider the story of Angelique Diggs, a Black woman leader who transformed her approach to leadership through what she calls strategic vulnerability. For years, Angelique maintained a flawless professional image, never letting anyone see her struggles or doubts. She was respected, certainly, but also isolated, disconnected from her team, and increasingly from herself. The breaking point came during a particularly challenging project. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Angelique made the radical decision to be honest with her team. She shared not just her professional challenges, but the personal ones affecting her work. She spoke about her journey, including the scars that had shaped her leadership philosophy. The response was transformative. Team members who had always seen her as somewhat untouchable suddenly connected with her on a human level. More importantly, they began sharing their own challenges, creating a culture of authentic communication that dramatically improved both well being and productivity. I discovered that my scars weren't something to hide, Angelique reflected. They were the very source of my wisdom and strength as a leader. The moments that broke me open were the same moments that gave me my greatest insights about resilience and compassion. Her approach, embracing her authentic story, including her scars, didn't diminish her leadership. It elevated it. By practicing strategic vulnerability, she fostered deeper connections and modeled a new kind of authentic leadership that empowered others to share their own stories. The result? A more supportive, resilient community and improved well being for herself and her colleagues. Her leadership style influenced broader conversations about mental health, self care, and community building within Black professional circles. What began as one woman's courageous choice rippled outward, changing the culture of an entire organization. This leads us to Tyra's third essential truth. Community and connection are not optional luxuries. They are essential foundations for healing and transformation. Sharing your story and supporting others creates ripples that extend far beyond yourself. The Scars into Strength episode of the Pink Parachute Diaries powerfully illustrates this principle. The episode explores how the very scars Black professionals often try to hide can become their greatest source of strength and authentic leadership. Many Black professionals struggle with societal and workplace expectations to present a flawless image. This pressure leads to internalized shame and profound disconnection, not just from others, but from themselves. The episode highlighted the process of reframing scars as sources of wisdom and resilience and encouraged open sharing as a leadership tool. One guest shared, I spent years hiding my background growing up in poverty, thinking it would make people respect me less as a business leader. When I finally shared my story of overcoming those challenges, it didn't diminish my authority, it amplified it. People connected with me in ways they never had before. Guests and listeners reported feeling empowered to embrace their full selves, leading to increased confidence and effectiveness in both their personal and professional lives. The episode inspired a wave of authentic leadership, with listeners reporting breakthroughs in self acceptance and community support. But let's be honest, this path isn't easy. Reclaiming your authentic self in spaces that have demanded your silence is an act of courage. It requires challenging deeply ingrained beliefs about professionalism, success, and worth. So, how do we begin this journey? How do we transform our scars into strength? First, recognize that healing isn't linear. There will be days when you feel powerful in your authenticity and days when you retreat behind familiar masks. That's not failure, it's being human. Second, start small. You don't need to share your deepest vulnerabilities with everyone. Begin with trusted allies who have earned the right to hear your story. Strategic vulnerability means choosing when, where, and with whom to share your authentic self. Third, find your community. Surround yourself with people who affirm your whole self, not just your achievements, but your struggles, your doubts, your humanity. These connections become the foundation for your continued growth and healing. Fourth, practice compassion for yourself and others. The masks we wear weren't adopted without reason. They were survival strategies in environments that weren't always safe for our authentic selves. Honor the part of you that needed that protection, even as you work to release it. Finally, remember that your story has power. When you share your journey, including the scars, you create space for others to do the same. Your vulnerability becomes permission for someone else's healing. This is the ripple effect Tyra Gardner speaks about so powerfully. When one person reclaims their authentic self, they create possibility for countless others. I stand before you today, not just with a challenge, but with an invitation to revolution, a revolution that begins within you, but doesn't end there. The world is desperate for authentic leaders who understand that power comes not from perfection, but from the courage to be real. What would our workplaces look like if we stopped exhausting ourselves with masks and started leading with authentic presence? What innovations might emerge if we brought our whole selves, including our unique perspectives shaped by our struggles, to the problems we're trying to solve? I challenge you today. Take one bold step toward honoring your whole self, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today. Because the truth is, we're never truly ready for transformation. We simply choose it again and again in moments both large and small. Your scars tell a story of resilience, of survival, of wisdom earned through experience. They aren't something to hide, they're something to honor because in a world of masks, authenticity isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. And revolution, my friends, begins with a single act of courage, the decision to be fully, unapologetically you, to stand in your truth, to speak your story, to let your scars shine as badges of honor rather than marks of shame. The world doesn't need more perfect professionals wearing flawless masks. It needs authentic humans with the courage to show their scars and the wisdom those scars have taught them. It needs you, all of you, exactly as you are. Thank you.